Peeking. Might look easy, but there's actually a lot that goes into it. A beginner won't know these things, an intermediate player might overcomplicate them, but I'm here to explain the intricacies and help you become the best player you can be. And if you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing. I really want to surpass 40,000 by the end of the year, but yeah.
Yes!
Oh, I got him!
First things first, when we're peeking an angle, we need to know what we're peeking. Like, what's the end goal here? Am I peeking an AWP? A rifle? Does this peek favour me? I hope everyone's doing these things already, because they can guide us into how we can approach it, and what kind of peek we want to use. But we'll get to these use cases later in the video. As of right now, I want to show you how to properly perform a peek. And to do that correctly, you'll need to know how to counter strafe, because in CS, we don't come to a complete stop, it's gradual. So when I'm strafing into the angle, I'm countering that momentum by tapping the opposite key to the direction I'm moving. This simply puts my character's movement speed to 0 instead of it gradually lowering. We want to do this because the most important thing about peek at an angle is making sure your shot is going to be completely accurate. I think this is why a lot of people at a lower level like to crab, because beside it looking quite funny, when we crouch and move, our accuracy remains accurate. I understand why this would be nice. In fact, I used to crab around every corner when I first started playing. But if you look at it from the enemy's perspective, I don't think we need to break down why this is the easiest shot ever. Also, the distance from the angle you're peeking is very important. This is a perspective reason. If you're closer to the angle than your opponent, they will see you first. There's actually a YouTube short I saw that explains this perfectly, so I'll just show this on the screen now, because I was bloody made up when I saw this. It's something I see a lot of my mates do, like you, Jack. I've seen you fall into this a few times, but I haven't said anything because, you know, it's mid-game and it's just not the vibe in that, is it? But yeah, if you're holding an angle and you're dead close to the wall, they will see you first, so get your pants back up. This also ties into a concept called peeker's advantage. Well, peeker's advantage is actually ping related, but I also use the same term for what I'm about to talk about, so yeah. If you're peeking someone, you're controlling the situation. You're making the action, and the other person has to make the correct reaction. So if the peeker controls when both players must react, the peeker is going to react faster. Also, as the peeker, you have the option to pre-fire, but we'll get to that a bit later. If you take this peeker's advantage in mind, remembering that you're controlling the situation, partnered with having the best distance from the angle, then you'll put yourself in a much more favourable fight. And you'll also recognise when the enemy has a favourable fight, and you can just avoid it completely, or counter it with a new position. Now, bringing it back to our point about distance. From the sounds of it, it sounds like peeking from as far away as possible is the best option, but we actually want to have a good balance. It's good to have the distance, yes, but sometimes we don't need that much distance. We just need to be further away than the enemy is. In fact, the closer we are, the faster we'll be moving on the enemy screen. So, if someone's holding with an AWP for example, it might be a good idea to get really close to them and then swing wide. So yeah, there are loads of ways you can use your movement and positioning to make it harder for your enemy to, you know, kill you. But alongside making it harder for them, you can make it easier for yourself by learning good crosshair placement. Good crosshair placement, in the context of peeking, is being able to pre-aim a position before you peek it. Alongside this, if you're pre-aiming the right position, your movement will be symmetrical to how they're holding. Let me explain. If someone's holding connector like this, for example, the enemy will most likely peek diagonally into them because they're pre-aiming the wrong spot. This diagonal peek is really easy to kill. Obviously, this is an off angle, it's designed to make the enemy peek like this. But if we apply this knowledge to our standard peeks, it'll disallow it from happening completely. And unless you're caught off by an off angle like this, you won't run into the issue. Because peeking diagonally is just not good in general. Not only are you moving slower on the enemy screen, but you also have to press 2 keys to counter strafe. It used to be a lot easier to practice pre-firing maps in CS2 since we had a really good workshop. And as you can tell from my workshop video in CS2, it's a bit underdeveloped right now. There are pre-fire practice maps available through things like Refrag, but they're unfortunately locked behind a premium subscription. And if you don't want to buy it, like me, then you can technically do the practices without the bots. The most important thing is that you have your crosshair where the enemy will be as soon as you peek the angle. If you've mastered both the movement and the crosshair placement, then you have a chance of hitting something like a pre-fire, which is where you preemptively shoot a position you predict someone to be in. This is actually where the traditional use for the term peeker's advantage is, since it's such a fast motion that even the millisecond time difference from server to client makes it favourable for the peeker. But to be honest, I know more about why farts are funny rather than CS2 server stuff, so I'll stick to what I know. Well, it's about time in the video I showed you some fun tips and tricks. If you peek an angle on your right, it's actually more favourable than on the left. This is because the character model naturally leans towards the right, so we're showing less of our body before we peek. Also, if you've got friends, nice, you can perform an elevated peek from your mate's noggin. A good example for this is mid on Anubis. You can boost on this little table here and see over the top of smokes. Something else worth knowing is that you can silently peek an angle. It's similar to the silent ladder climb in the sense that the first half a second or so of the action is silent, so we can kind of step out into an angle and it won't make a noise. If I'm silently clearing an area of the map, it usually consists of multiple silent peeks, making sure no one's holding any of the common and uncommon angles. But ultimately, what's the best way to get something done in Counter-Strike? Working as a team. So above anything, you should try and double peek when available. It takes communication, but simply having someone that you can count down from 3 with is really valuable. Some good ideas are having someone swing close and someone swing from far back. Doing a buddy system, where one guy takes the fight and the second guy is ready for an instant trade. An elevated peek, like on A-Ramp Vertigo, where you can have 2 people peeking from an upper and lower angle. Or even have someone on low HP jump out as a distraction for a teammate to peek. There's bloody loads. But yeah, I think that's about everything, to be honest. I'm struggling with what else to think about peeking, really. But feels good to get this video done, because I can't lie boys, I've been having a bit of anxiety recently. You know, life can be scary, and sometimes very serious things happen. And that's not to say it's like the end of my life or anything, but I do have a lot on my plate right now. I don't want to restrict myself from making certain types of videos, because I'm afraid of being the main focus of the video. Like, this video is all about peeking, and the reason people click it is mostly for that. Whereas if the video was all about Neil, it suddenly feels like I've got a lot to live up to, or something to prove to myself. It's not like you guys need to know this, because regardless, I'm going to be posting videos, but I feel it helps me be a bit more authentic. But life's forever a battle, you know, but we will win the war. So get in your CS games with all your new peeking knowledge, get some lovely peeks in there, and most of all, I want you to fucking have it. And I'll catch you in the next video. See ya.